like to bring on our guest for tonight, Robyn Moonshadow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Duke. Thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome. Great to have you back again. You know, I'm sorry it took so long to get back to you and get an update. We like to catch up with you every so often because I know you're like extremely active in keeping up with all the little person sightings and stuff that are going on worldwide. And you know, whenever I have somebody contact me that has little person stuff happen to them, I always like to steer them in your direction. Go, hey, go report to Robyn. She's got the database. She keeps track of all this stuff. She can tell you more about it than I can for sure. So it's just great to have you back on the show again. And you know, like last time we talked a lot about Bigfoot in other parts of the world. We even covered like Ibugogo and showed the some of the pictures from the video that the motocross guys had gotten of him when he startled them and went running out ahead of them. And one thing I'd like to steer toward this time is if have you done very much research on the little people in Australia? I don't think we touched on that very much.
I have one story on the little people in Australia. From the suburbs. He was playing hide and seek with some of his friends, and he hid in a tree. And one of these little people that looked like a little Aboriginal and wear kangaroo skin shot him in the foot with a little arrow.
Ow.
Or, excuse me, not an arrow, but it's a particular weapon that they use. That they
boomerang or something?
But that they put this little spear or arrow into, and then they throw it.
Oh, Atlatl, a spear thrower.
Yes, like that. And it got him in the foot. Now, nobody believed him, but he went to talk to an Aboriginal chief, and the chief told him, those little guys don't like us, stay clear of them.
Yeah. Well, apparently it wasn't poisoned or something, because he didn't die, right?
No, he didn't die, but his foot was awful sore and swollen for quite a few weeks.
Yow. Man, that would be scary. Hide inside of a tree and have one of those guys like a spear at your foot.
Well, yes, this is what he said. Is he just looked up and there was this little guy in a kangaroo cloth. Just right out of the blue. He wasn't expecting it or anything.
So what do the local legends down there say about the little guys in Australia? Do you have like a local name for them or any more information on them?
I do believe they're called yumbos.
Yumbo.
Or yumbies.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they're just told you to stay clear of them. They don't like people very much, and they will shoot arrows at you.
Well, that's more than enough reason to steer clear of them. They don't like us, they'll shoot arrows at us. Got it. Stay away from those guys.
Yep, and they apparently don't need a reason to do it. This young lad was just hiding in the tree. He wasn't causing any harm or doing anything.
So and this little dude was in the tree with him?
Yeah, just like up on an upper branch. So you just imagine you're in a tree and you look over and there's this little guy that's about 2 feet high.
And he flings a spear at you with his spear thrower. Yeah, that would be no fun. No thanks.
Right in the foot.
Ow. So what corollary, how do you think that correlates to like here in the U.S. where you have some of these little people that are sighted and even been pictures taken of some of them where they look just like little natives with the buckskins and the braids and the whole thing. And then you've got like miniature Aborigine over there.
Well, I think it's no different than human variation, where we come in all shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. And Mother Nature will make us however she needs to be for us to survive.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, local adaptation. I just find it interesting that they just, they look like smaller versions of the indigenous natives in the area that they seem to be in.
Oh, yes. What we hear, and I've always heard this, is that when the people come to an area from the outside, like we'll say Canada or America, for example, little people and giants were already here when we got here. Well, my ancestors got here.
Yeah. And they're all over the place, from the Arctic down to the tip of South America, from the Chinook to what's down the south tip.
Yeah, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
See, we've always been told that America and Canada was pretty much a vast empty waste with just animals. And now we find out this isn't true.
No. Yeah, and we got the megaliths to prove it too. You know, like a lot of people think about, oh, Europe, they got Stonehenge, and Malta's got all these giant megaliths, and you go across Asia, there's all these huge dolmens and stuff, you know, and this is all like, you know, Stone Age megalithic technology, and some people think humans built it, and all the locals say giants built it. You can believe whatever you want. But it's interesting that apparently the same culture was over here in North America, because there's that stuff over here too, and most people have no idea. For instance, the tallest dolmen on Earth, the Tizer dolmen, is right here at the Giants Playground in Montana, 60 feet tall.
Yes, that's why it's called the Giants Playground.
Yeah. It's not called the Ice Age Aboriginal
Speaking
Playground.
with other fellow natives, we have lost a lot of our ancient culture, as many people may be aware. And to go back that far into ancient times when we first got here, a lot of that is gone. What we do have, though, is things that are passed down to us. Our oral histories are what we kept, and we've lost a lot of that as well. But some of us are lucky to have it, that it's kept going. And say, for me, little people and giants were never just myths to us, that these were legends, that these are true beings that exist.
Yeah, I was actually fairly impressed when I was talking to Caveman about that subject, and they actually still have the oral legend of what happened and how the natives and the Hero Twins teamed up to boot the giants' butts back out of North America again.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That's got to go back a long ways, and they've still got that oral tradition. So, yeah, as you can imagine, however they got over here, whether they were walking across the Bering Strait or whatever, that was a long, long time ago. And they said when they got here, giants were already here. Bigfoot was already here. Little people were already here.
Yes, definitely. So we don't know.
The other thing that's interesting is if you look at the migration of the tribes, because, they tended to move around a bit. They weren't always in the same place for hundreds of years. It looks more and more like they actually came in, as science now backs up, from the north. But they were in the northern areas for a long time before they moved down into where the lower 48 is right now, which matches up with their legends of the giants killing each other off and getting to the point where there was actually few enough giants and enough of the Native Americans that they could actually make war on and boot them out.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. Even I've heard that one, too, that the giants would war among themselves because they were greedy. And they'd eat
each other.
And they were eating each other, yeah. And there are many, many stories about natives making war on the giants that caused trouble.
Yep, yeah, and for a lot more on giants, go check out the last episode that I did with Gary Wayne, who's like the guy when you want to talk about giants. He's done the research. He's got the 30 years of research in. That's kind of why I'm thrilled to have you on the show right away here, because it's the long and the short of it. We got the Gary Wayne talking about the long, the giant guys, and then we got you on talking about the short, the little people. So that's kind of fun.
Yep, the tall and the small of it.
Yep. And the other thing that gets mentioned sometimes is that in areas where you have Bigfoot sightings, it also seems that there are occasionally sightings of little people, or they find tracks of little people and stuff. And it's been proposed that the little people will sometimes move around with the Bigfoot groups and use them for protection, basically.
There are two schools of thought on that, where if some little people don't have a permanent home.
Right, the migratory ones, the ones that got a permanent underground base or something, they're not doing that.
Yeah, we'll also find where there are Bigfoot, there are little people, because they coexist together very well because they are not fighting for food.
Right. That seems to be what's going on in Coloma, because we found, Bigfoot tracks and little people tracks right in that same area.
And you'll also find where there are dogmen, there are no little people.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that before. So the dogman is a threat to the little people then.
Yes, and it seems to be as much as of a threat where they just won't be in the area. I wondered if the dogman maybe eat the little people.
Well, I would certainly lean toward that proposition first, but I'm interested in hearing other theories on why they wouldn't be there. You know, you would almost say, well, like, why don't Bigfoot eat them? But, you know, maybe Bigfoot don't eat things that look like us, you know, like hominoids.
Yeah, like I said, with the Bigfoot and little people, they have a good relationship. I would imagine it's because they eat a lot of the same things and there's enough to go around.
Yeah. Well, one wouldn't expect that the dietary needs of those tiny little guys would be very much compared to what Bigfoot has to eat.
Well, no, I mean, with the gnomes, like, they are still little people, and they are so varied. Like, there's many different types of gnomes. Like, a leprechaun is a gnome, a Tommyknocker is a gnome, and they exist by themselves. They make their own clothes. They don't eat meat except for fish and eggs. They'll spin their own clothes from animal hair or natural fibers. But we do know that some little people do eat meat, like redcaps and Dewandis. They eat meat. They'll eat almost anything.
Yeah.
A household pet or whatever, and they're like the anti-gnomes. They're like the evil gnomes.
How about kobolds? Are they in the evil gnome class?
They're in between. They can be temperamental if you mess with them, or if they just take a dislike to you. But yes, they are of the gnome family.
I remember that's from the old German legends. They would talk about if they heard the rap tap tapping down there and there weren't humans digging at the time, they figured the kobolds were mining into their the mine that they were in, and they would like get really scared and even abandon it sometimes.
Yeah, they're the Tommyknockers. They are a gnome. Now, like I said,
this is a kobold in Germany. The Tommyknockers is the identical legend. There's
yes,
several of these in different countries, which again is kind of like, how come they all have the same weird legend with a different name for essentially the same critter they're describing?
Exactly. It goes back to when they would communicate with us. Now, there are old stories that these little guys would be working in the mines next to the miners, wearing almost the same type of clothing, the little overalls and the whole thing.
Wow.
Now, some will blame them for the cave-ins, thinking that they caused it and that they're bad luck. But overall, they're good luck. The tapping is them warning the people to get out of the mine.
Interesting.
And so much so in some of these legends that the people will make little cakes for them and give them beer. But they are temperamental as long as you respect them and respect their work and just let them go about doing their work, whether it's mining beside you, behind you, whatever. But if you mess with them and interfere with their work and disrespect them, they will cause havoc.
Yeah, I've sort of heard that mentioned in the legends enough times. So that sort of draws a parallel with some of the stuff with the fairy folk over there in the British Isles and stuff, where there was like certain ones at certain times of the year you'd want to give them, you know, little treats or something to keep them happy and on your side, so they wouldn't start causing trouble with around the property or with your family members or something.
Yeah, with the gnomes, it's traditional to give them porridge on Christmas Eve to thank them for all their hard work throughout the year. Now, there is a story of a girl who gave a gnome that worked in the barn porridge. Now, they liked their butter on top of the porridge, but she put it on the bottom of the bowl, and it made the little guy angry, and he felt disrespected. So he went and he killed their prized cow.
Uh-oh.
And then he went back to eating, and then he found the butter in the bottom, the butter at the bottom of the bowl. And then he felt bad, and he went and he stole a cow from the neighbor and replaced it.
And that didn't make the neighbor very happy. I'm sure that caused some problems too.
Well, I found too that if a neighbor is cruel to their animals and don't treat them right, gnomes will go and take them away and give them to farmers who treat their animals correctly.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've always heard that sort of thing connected to the gnomes being like protectors of nature and that sort of thing.
Yeah, they are, and they love horses.
You think there's some of the reason that you see some of these weird fairy braids and stuff? You think those are the guys that are doing it?
Oh yeah, and we'll find that the little native ones will do that as well. They love horses and they'll braid their hair, and you're not supposed to take the braids out. You let them come out on their own. The little people will find it offensive, and the horse will just disappear. They'll take it away.
I got an illustration of the little people braiding the horse's hair that we're showing right now. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So, another interesting thing that was brought up here not too long ago by somebody else that I know, where they were talking about or again in the British Isles, the Grey Neighbors. And their take on it is that they're talking about essentially gray aliens with those guys.
Yeah, I do come across a lot of the parallels between little people and the gray aliens. With the gray aliens, they have the large black eyes.
Yeah. And the description of the Grey Neighbors not only seemed to match them description-wise, but also behavior-wise, which is kind of the really creepy thing.
Yes, because gray aliens don't talk to you through your mouth, through their mouth. They talk to you through your mind, through telepathy. And you'll find when little people talk to you, they will use their mouth.
Yeah. Yep. Again, yeah. That was the one of the things that's been noticed about this. And apparently there's more than one kind of leprechaun, too. I heard you talking about that on another show recently.
Yes, the leprechauns, Tommyknockers, they're all part of the gnome family. Now, we have different types of gnomes. We have gnomes that prefer to live in a house, the house or domestic gnome. We have gnomes that prefer to work in a barn, or the woodland gnome. And I believe I had an encounter with a woodland gnome over the summer, and it was just very quick. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little green cap. Now, he was about a 2-footer, but it was enough for me to know that I wasn't seeing something, but it happened so quick it made you wonder. Now, I was wearing my gear at the time, but I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I got a report from a Bigfoot researcher who was in one of his Bigfoot areas and was walking around, and he saw something out of the corner of his eye and turned and looked, and he just caught a flash of it. But whatever it was upright bipedal and about 1.5 feet tall and going really fast through some brush to get away from him and out of his range of vision. And he just caught just enough of a glimpse of it to go, what the hell is that? And that was about it.
Yeah, it was like, did I just see what I think I saw? And then your brain catches up and you're like, Yeah,
his brain was trying to convince him it was some kind of a, squirrel or small animal or something, but it was just like, clearly it was standing upright and it was moving really fast.
Yeah, they are quick.
Yeah, and you hear that over and over again, and that's disconcerting. It's kind of creepy enough that there's these little guys that can sneak in all over the place, but they're really fast too. God.
Oh yeah, because their center of gravity is lower than ours, and they can move faster.
Zoomity zoom.
Yeah. Now, I was suspicious that there was a little person in the area, but I didn't expect that I would see it.
Have you managed yet to be able to, get any decent pictures or video of any of these guys?
No, I've gotten tracks. I've even gotten tracks in the snow about a month ago. And I did follow them. I did follow them for a ways, but unfortunately, it goes onto another piece of property that I'm not allowed to go onto because it's a no trespassing area. And where I could see where the tracks went right up into a large tree that has a hole in it.
Okay. Well, and so you got pictures of the tracks then, right?
Yeah, I do.
Cool. So we'll be showing you guys those right now.
Yeah, I'll send them over.
Right on. I remember the last time we talked, fortuitously enough, I had just gotten somebody like a few days before that had sent me pictures that they had found in the mud underneath a bridge in the Rio Grande River, and this was, again, middle of the winter, a teeny little handprint and teeny little footprints. Remember that?
It was last February, I believe.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and he's got a handprint. Now, further examination of the pictures that I got were, I found that the one track was very heavy and did not coincide with the size of the hand. So I talked with a friend of mine who also does tracks, and he said, I think that little one is a female carrying a baby, and what you have is the baby little person handprint. So that made that whole thing exceptional.
Wow. Yeah, that's, it's one thing to just talk about all the different legends and stuff about these little guys, but when you start, like, finding tracks and getting pictures of them and stuff, then it's, like, a lot harder to go, oh, that's just folklore.
Yeah, I get a lot of tracks, and sometimes I get argued with as well about this track is a baby Bigfoot. And, no, Bigfoot, but they don't wear shoes.
Yeah.
They don't wear moccasins, and why would a mama or daddy Bigfoot let a baby get that far away from them?
Yeah, exactly. And let's face it, Bigfoot are big. Even when they're born, their foot's going to be like not that tiny, not like human infant tiny. We mentioned this before we got on the air and started recording. I'll bring it up again just so that we can go over it again. But I just got contacted by a Bigfoot researcher a few days ago that's been in the same area researching for years, and they just found a little barefoot 3-inch long track and asked me about it. And I said, well, it's not a Bigfoot. It's too small. Even a newborn Bigfoot's got a foot bigger than that. So, that leaves only the little people. And like I mentioned to you where this area was, and you told me that you're pretty sure that in that area they're just the Proto-Pygmies. They're not like, Puckwudgies or extremely vicious or violent or anything.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with the Puckwudgies, but in this particular area that we were talking about, yes, they're for lack of a better word, it's the proto-natives, the little ones that look like little natives.
Right. So these guys aren't like particularly aggressive or mean or anything, and as long as they're not like making their presence known and making you aware that you shouldn't be around there, just ignore them.
Yeah, just ignore them. Let them go about doing their thing. If they want you to be aware that they're there, they will let you know. I just recently got a story from West Virginia on the Appalachian Trail, and he's a researcher and he hikes there, and he saw a little female native, one of the little proto-natives. She threw a rock at him and then ran away. And she left a knife behind. So this means she was out gathering, I'm sure. And he said, I didn't know what to do. I left the knife there. So I said, when you go back again, see if the knife is there. If the knife is there, you're meant to have it and leave something in its place. But if it's gone, she's come back for it. And you probably just startled her.
Yeah.
So when he went
really
back,
happy that you left her knife for her and didn't walk off with
yeah, when he went back, the knife was gone, of course. But he might see them more often now because he's aware that they're there, and they know that he knows.
And they also know that like he was pretty nice because he didn't pick her knife up and walk off with it like he easily could have.
Yeah, and he didn't antagonize her either. Yeah. Because don't do that to any little person. Because numbers overwhelm.
Yeah, where there's one, there's a pile of them, and a pile of them can take out us, so don't do it.
That's right. And I've heard stories where people have said I would rather encounter a giant than a pack of little people.
Yeah. That seems to be the general consensus amongst the locals and the natives in these areas around here in the mountains where there's said to be little people, that they would just like far prefer to run into a Bigfoot than they would to run into a little person.
Yes, definitely. Like I always tell everybody when I go out to research, or what I call hobbying, if they asked me to go with them, I would go, but I would have restrictions. I don't want to be gone for 10 years.
Yeah. No accepting food and drink or dinner requests from the little people that you might run into.
Oh no, I have a story of Henry Hudson and the Catskill Dwarves, where they heard the legends of these little guys, and they were on the boat one night and they seen the lights in the hills from their fire. So they go to investigate, Henry Hudson and a handful of his men, and they found these dwarves and they were drinking because they make their own beer, and they found it fascinating, so they stayed a while. And as the legend goes, they were drinking and eating and, well, partying, because we all know dwarves like to party. And he found that his men started to change and look more like them, more like little people.
Uh-oh.
And he said, it's time to go. So I'm thinking hallucinogens, because by the time that they all got back to the ship, everybody looked normal again.
Yeah. Well, it could be, or it could be just magical powers or transforming them into dwarves. You know, and from what I understand, this is actually a true story that you're referencing, and it's what inspired the Rumpelstiltskin legend, right?
Oh, yes. Rumpelstiltskin, if he was real, he would be a Dwendie or a Redcap.
And then what was the other one out there from the Catskills? He heard him playing like nine pins, and he went over there and hung out with them and got drunk for a while, and then he woke up like 100 years later.
Oh, yes.
Now that, yeah. So anyway, again, that story was also inspired by this incident. Was reported by Henry Hudson and his explorer team when they went through there.
Oh, yes, there's a story like that from, Nova Scotia. The first settlers. That the two men heard music and they went out. And it was a bunch of these little people playing music. And they were so enthralled with the music that they began to dance with them. And we were talking little people here, not fairies, but little people.
Right.
And the woman or the woman went out to see what was going on. Now, it didn't seem to affect her, and she actually had to go and get pails of water, cold water, to throw on the men to get them to come back.
Break the trance.
To break that trance. And we now know that certain music can do certain things to your brain. Like a song that makes us feel better or sad or whatnot, but if you play it at a different tune or a different frequency, it does something to your head. So, yeah, stories like this I absolutely believe.
Yeah, and you know, how often does this come up with cryptids too, where there's this weird thing about them having sonic powers? You know, you got Bigfoot with the infrasound thing, and you've got the fairies and the little people can charm people with their music. The sirens luring the sailors to their deaths to smash their ships on the rocks and drown them. The manticore that can stun you with its roar. It's all over the place in the old legends and stuff on cryptids.
Yeah, with the infrasound, it's also in elephants through their feet, and this is how they communicate over long distances.
Yep.
And with tigers, it's in their roar. Now, I can tell you I've got two 20-pound cats, and they are big cats. And when they growl, you can feel it vibrate through the couch and into the floor.
We think that's something that Bigfoot does, too, because they got those big, thick Osman pads on the bottom of their feet. They have the size to generate considerable infrasound. And they seem to always like having their feet in contact with the ground. And maybe, they can do the same thing the elephants can and can communicate that way. And, an even bigger example of that would be whales. Whales can hear each other halfway across the damn ocean when they're communicating like that.
Oh, absolutely. I tell you, when I was squatching, and I squatch alone. I'll go with groups and things to further my research.
It sounds like a George Thorogood song. I squatch alone, yeah, all by myself. You never heard that? I Drink Alone by George Thorogood?
No, I haven't heard that one. I'll have to look it up now.
Yeah. All you'd have to do is just change the lyrics to I Squatch Alone and it would work.
I might do that. I've got a 2-hour plane ride coming up. That would be something to do to entertain myself.
There you go. You can rewrite the lyrics to make your own version of it for yourself.
If there's people sitting beside me, they might move.
Yeah, when they see the leprechaun pop his head out of your purse, that'll probably make a move to a different scene anyway.
Well, I do that too. When we get telemarketers calling here, I'll start that talk. And I will educate them on cryptozoology and little people. And they don't call back. And it's great practice for podcasts.
Lots of good practice getting them details out there.
Over the summer when I was out squatching, that I do squatch by myself, I heard something jump out of a tree. That distinct noise, that thud when something heavy hits the ground, and then
sounds like a full refrigerator got dropped out of the tree.
Yeah, it's a very specific noise, but I didn't see anything. Now in October, I was just simply going back, and it was right after our first snowfall, and I was just going back to collect a trail cam, and I got to the specific area, and I got 2 wood knocks. Now, I wasn't trying to be quiet or anything. I was walking and the snow was crunching, and I got the 2 wood knocks, and I stopped. And it's loud enough that I got it on the GoPro. But the woods that I was going around was so thick, you can't see anything, which was disappointing. And I took a few more steps, and I got more wood knocks. And it just took me right by surprise because I hadn't had activity in this area, and I've been followed by a coyote after that followed me right out to the woods, or right out to the road. But I do have that on my YouTube channel if everybody wants to check that out.
And what is your YouTube channel? Let's bring that up right now so that everybody knows where to go.
On the YouTube channel, it's Strange Realms. And for my blog, it's strangerealms.net. And I do have a Facebook group. And I'm working on the MeWe Facebook page.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you over there on MeWe. We got a whole bunch of really great Bigfoot groups over there. No trolls, and everybody gets along awesome.
Yeah, I've just gotten so busy this year that I've only been able to take a week off, and that was after Christmas.
Yeah, that's pretty busy. You can't get time up till after Christmas.
So yes, it was very exciting, and I did get a little unnerved this year. Like I said, I'm usually by myself, and I don't let anything bug me. But after that thud, and I didn't see anything, and everything went quiet, I didn't get the impression that it was a Bigfoot or a little person.
Oh.
So yeah, I didn't get those impressions, but it unnerved me enough that I carry a high-powered pellet handgun because I've been followed by a fisher, a large fisher. I was out in the woods one day, and I got turned around, so I backtracked, and the fisher, which was a good size, about 30 pounds.
Yeah,
It had walked over my track and actually followed me for a ways. So this is why I have the gun now. I won't hurt an animal unless I have to, but this pellet gun will sting. And with this thud, I actually unhooked my gun just in case. Now our bears sleep in the winter here, so it wasn't a bear, and it wasn't a coyote because it sounded like it came out of the tree.
There is tree climb, but I don't remember hearing about any of them leaping out of trees.
No, and it was a bit too heavy to be this heavy fisher. Now, there is a small fisher in the area. She's about 20 pounds, and she seems harmless. But see, the fishers in this area have been known to attack people. 2 years ago, one put a woman in the hospital. So I'm cautious when it comes to fishers.
Yeah, and most of the people listening right now probably don't even know what that is. It's another member of the musculid family. It's a little bit smaller than a wolverine and not quite as crabby as a badger.
That's a good description, yes, and they're black.
Yep. I've seen one. I was lucky enough to see one run across a road in a nature area I was driving through late one night. And I wasn't even sure what I was looking at. When I got back, I had to go look up some nature pictures to make sure that that's actually what it was that I was seeing. But yeah, that was the one I saw again was big. It was a lot too big to be a house cat or anything like that. And wasn't built the right way either. But that's why in some parts of the North Woods where there's fishers, people call them fisher cats because they have sort of a cat-like look to them. They got a more stretched out, longer body than a cat does or anything. They're bigger. But yeah, and then the other I've actually got to see a Wolverine too. So
yeah, I got some great footage of a fisher cat from the last time I was out on my trail cam. And if you all want to check that out, it's on my YouTube channel as well.
Cool stuff. Yeah, I like some of the northern researchers that get the the little minks and all that kind of stuff that are running around up there. The littler.
Yeah, I've also seen a Wolverine once. It was back in on my parents' property when my oldest daughter wasn't quite a year old. I saw it from a distance, and it was digging at a log, and it took me a minute because they're not supposed to be in our area. And it took me a minute to clue into as to what it was. And I can tell you, I am lucky that the wind was blowing the opposite way. But it didn't matter. I skedaddled out of the area.
Good precaution. They're mean little suckers. They think everything in the area that they're in is their property to do with as they please.
Or food.
Well, yeah, that falls under the category of their property.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I was lucky. Like I was carrying my daughter. We were just out walking. And yeah, I just skedaddled out of there. Yeah, but I have no doubt if it caught my scent, it would have come to check us out, not in a friendly way. Yeah.
I know there's people now that are trying to paint them as like, well, they're not that dangerous. They're just like another woodland animal and stuff. No. There's a reason why the first settlers went way out of their way to exterminate these things.
Bears don't even mess with Wolverines.
Bears are afraid of Wolverines. Wolves are afraid of Wolverines. Mountain lions are afraid of Wolverines. Everything except friggin' Sasquatch is afraid of Wolverines. I don't know, maybe Sasquatch is too.
That could be.
They don't want to get bit up while they're squishing it. That's the problem. Wolverines are stupid. They'll fight to the death. They're more primitive, and that's why other animals are scared of them. Even like a bear that's like 10 times its size is still going to back down because a Wolverine will just keep fighting, and it'll do so much damage to the bear he might die from his wounds even if he lives.
Yeah, because see that they'll grab on with their jaws and hold and rip. They don't just grab and let go. They will grab and pull and rip.
Yeah. They kind of almost do the croc roll. They'll grab onto you and just rip a mouthful out.
Yep, they will. And like you said, they will not stop until they are dead or their prey is dead.
Yeah. And if you get attacked by a Wolverine, you don't really have any choice of just like trying to fend it off or anything. It's like you've got to kill it because it's going to try and kill you.
And they will climb trees.
Yeah. And they can kill anything, any size. There was a moose hunter that almost got run down by a bull moose coming down a trail in a full charge. He barely leaped out of the way in the time, and he realized the bull moose had a Wolverine on its back that was attacking it. So he followed the trail of this moose, and about a mile later, he found the dead bull moose with the Wolverine on it eating him.
Yeah, and remember, moose can be dangerous as well because they put their rack down, and they will hit you with the full force of a truck.
No, it's more like a bulldozer. It's like a propelled bulldozer with a hangover is what a moose is.
Several years ago, I took a trip up to Sault Ste. Marie, and there was a moose at the side of the road. And there was like 20 people stopped taking pictures. Now, I got out, and I took a couple of pictures, and I had a good look. And the moose was not too impressed after a few minutes, and out of all these people, it was only me and another woman who knew enough to leave. The moose was getting annoyed. It was time to go. I don't know what happened. I left.
You didn't stay around to watch the carnage or get a viral video out of the deal. You just left.
Nope. It was also a new SUV I had at the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be a good time to leave. When they decide to go butt your truck, it's going to make a nice big dent. So let's not get off topic here too much with all the wondrous and dangerous Northland animals that most people don't have to deal with. What interesting new stuff have you found out about the little people you could share with us since the last time you were on the show?
Well, especially with the gnomes, some people know that I've been researching little people, well, practically forever now. And you see correlations with these little people like the leprechauns, the Tommyknockers and such, and their description is the same except for the clothes they wear. And that is like a large part of the gnome family. And then we have the little goblin type ones. And they come in a variety of different colors for camouflage sake. Usually we get the grayish color ones or the greenish color ones, but it's starting to come to light that there are a bunch of different colors. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, it'd make it a lot easier for them to blend into the background if they weren't like pale human colored.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's great camouflage.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially if it's not like a normal skin tone, or you wouldn't look for it.
And well, I got a report of a troll from England, an actual troll with the big ears, and it's a typical, what you would think of as a troll with the big ears, the big nose, and the teeth in England, and it reached through a window and grabbed the woman's bird right out of a cage.
We talking about like full-size Bigfoot-sized troll, or one of the little?
No, one of the small trolls, because there are like the two different sized trolls. We have the larger trolls, and then we have the small trolls, but we're talking about the small trolls. And they too come in a variety of colors.
Right. What troll means depends on where you're at. Their description is, for instance, like in Sweden, everything is a troll. Everything supernatural is a troll. It's all a troll. Witchcraft is trolldom. It's all connected to trolls. In Norway, a troll is like a Bigfoot-type monster, and that's it. It's not any of those other things. So it really depends on who's using the word and where it's being used.
That's true. Yes. And it's also been brought up that perhaps Grendel from the Beowulf tale could have been a Bigfoot.
Or a troll. I've had enough conversation with some of the people over in that area. Believe it or not, folks, there's actually Bigfoot researchers over there in Sweden and Norway. They're not very public, but they're doing it. And they're doing research. And I have a archivist researcher over there that's also doing research. And they've come to the conclusion that in legend, it's listed that there's three different things. There's giants, there's the forest people, and there's trolls. And they're not the same thing. So is Bigfoot a troll? No, it's something different.
Yes, I also
and a troll isn't a giant either, because again, different classification.
That's right. It's also been brought up to me that everything is a Bigfoot. A puka is a Bigfoot, and a puka is a little person. Mm-hmm. A kappa is a Bigfoot. No, it's a little person from Japan.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, kappas are kind of weird. They kind of fall outside the lines of the ordinary little person thing because they got this whole aquatic thing related to them.
Yes. And it's absolutely fascinating because they are like a little water person. The new Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them has a kappa in it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the movie yet, but it's a bit of a treat. It doesn't look like how they're supposed to look, but it's a bit of a treat. A kappa has a gray silver tone to its skin, and they look like children. And they will come out and they will heal you if you are sick. But again, like a lot of little people, they are temperamental. Sometimes they'll bring you back, sometimes they won't. So they are seen as benign and mischievous at the same time.
Seems to be some areas where the little people are like really kind of sneaky and malevolent. Like they will tell the locals, well, as long as you're give me this for tribute, I'll help you keep your garden going and stuff like that, and everything will be growing great and it'll be a bumper crop and stuff. And then the next thing will be like, hey, I want this, and it's kind of like borderline questionable, and the homeowner will go ahead and give it to him anyway. And before long they've got them like practically making sacrifices and that sort of thing. And it's like, wait, what kind of little people do you have there? Because these guys don't sound very nice.
Yeah, I think that this is another member of the Red Cap and the Dewandie family, like Rumpelstiltskin. Give me what I want, or else. Yeah,
or else, and that's it too. They're like threats accompanying it. as long as you do this, everything will be fine. If I don't get my way, bad things are going to happen.
Yes, which kind of goes against the proper equivalent exchange. Where with Pedro, he brought the man a deer, and the man gave him something in return. It was a can of peaches, was it?
Yeah, he had actually gave him the can of peaches the previous summer, I think it was, and that was payback for it when he was frozen into his cabin for a week.
Yeah.
Couldn't even get the door open, and they killed a deer and threw it over there on his front porch. So he could...
Yeah, the majority of little people do this. You give them something, they will give it back to you. We will also see this where a person, one of these little people, will take a certain liking to a family and watch over their family for generations. Or a single little person will take a liking to a we'll say human, and watch over them while they're in the woods and leave them gifts. A friend of mine, they'll leave him turtles. This just doesn't happen like once or twice. This has happened 5 or 6 times in this specific area. He'll be on his way back out, and he'll get a little turtle. And this is in the woods. A little turtle.
What are they thinking he's going to do with the turtle? That would be my question.
Well, it's either maybe he'll eat it, or maybe it's symbolic.
Yeah, that's really odd.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured out why it's always these little turtles. It's always a little snapping turtle.
Well, snapping turtles aren't particularly cuddly, so maybe they're figuring that he wants to eat it. Snappers are edible and fairly yummy, actually.
Maybe they think he's too thin.
Yeah, you need to eat some more, dude. You're skinny. You turn sideways, you're invisible.
Yeah, I'm absolutely amused by this. Now, I'm going to this particular area where this happens. Because, of course, I got to push my luck a little bit to see. Now, if they leave me a squirrel or something, I might be offended, you know?
Yeah, don't be killing those little animals, leave them for me.
Yeah, because I won't eat squirrel.
Yeah, I know somebody was telling me that they've had little people around their area for a long time, and the little people leave them stones, like really unusual, special, really cool-looking little stones. They'll just leave them right on the path where they're going to sure. And they're not 100% sure the little people are doing it, but it's been going on like pretty much their whole lifetime, practically. And it's always odd that they're walking down these same paths and stuff, and you never see any of these, stones, and then all of a sudden there it'll be something that would have attracted their attention immediately. You would sitting there previously.
I've actually had that happen with sandstone. And because it's so odd, you don't notice it at first. But it happens, it's happened a few times over this summer. And I've noticed it more now that I've started to take notice of it. When I was in upstate New York doing some squatching and hobbiting research, I noticed the odd stone that wasn't there before. Now, it wasn't a particularly active area, like people-wise, where we were. And I was like, okay, it wasn't there when we came out because it was an odd-looking sandstone. I would have noticed it. And I got permission to go across into a small island this year to put up a cam because there was knocking there. And it was but the 3rd time that I went over the dam that there was one of these stones. Now, the wood knocking turned out to be a really large woodpecker, which was great among itself because this is the first time I had seen one of these, practically giant woodpecker.
Is that one of those pileated woodpeckers?
Yeah, it was.
We used to have those in the woods I lived in, too. Those things could really make a racket when they go off.
Yeah. Yeah, it was exciting and disappointing at the same time.
Well, it's kind of cool to see them. They're not like super common or anything either, but
yeah. Like I've been lucky animal-wise with my trail cams.
Yeah. Well, that's a fun thing, I mean, if you're in an area where there's like Bigfoot or little people around, you're gonna have all kinds of animals around there. Potentially, you can get video or pictures and stuff up. So that's always fun,
Well, what I've noticed through my little pre-pill research is that if there is a large number of mushrooms in an area, there's most likely a little person, a forest gnome, because see, they plant them and cultivate them. So I've seen many times where there's no mushrooms in an area at all, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of mushrooms, and then a little person sighting.
Well, when we were up in the Yak there, we were in an area that had mushrooms all over the place. It was at, I can't remember what the name of it is. It looks like a brain or something. Pretty yummy, though. But it was just everywhere. It was all over the dang place. And when we were coming back down the hill, we stopped and documented the one Bigfoot track that we found right next to this stump going up the hill. And then if you lean over and look at the top of the hollow stump, there's like spikes all over inside of it protruding into the interior.
Wow.
Yeah, and we couldn't figure it out. And we've had a few people try and offer not very good explanations, including forestry people. I mean, there's some that are like, well, it's the branches that grew out. It's the remains of the branches on the inside after the inside rotted and hollowed out, which would only work if it was just exclusively above ground. But some of these protrusions are below ground level, and they're all sharp, like somebody's sharpened them and pointing inward. So needless to say, we did try and stick our hands in there.
Like I said, some little people do eat meat.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was like an entrance to something inside that hollow stump, and they had these little spikes in there to keep anybody from trying to climb in there.
That could be too, because they are little people and they still have to protect themselves from animals. They're particularly afraid of large birds.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine like a weasel or something like that would be definitely a dangerous thing to have around too.
I come across a trip trap in the early spring. A trip trap is something we see a lot of this up in Alaska as well. It is a horseshoe shaped trap made of sticks and vines where the animal would be chased into and they can't get out. They'll get their feet caught in these vines and not be able to get out. Now it's either for food or they're going to capture the animal to heal it maybe. Now it was old and it hadn't been used for a while.
And this wasn't like something human set up?
No, it was something completely different. It's also on my YouTube channel, which I was surprised when I come across it. Because when you come across things that are that unusual, you kind of take notice. Now, up in Alaska, the little people are said to make these things for those reasons. That would be the urchin rack, the little people. That's used as a collective term.
Yeah, I've heard about the, it kind of surprised me the first time I did, but yeah, the Eskimo legends, the little people up there too.
Oh yeah, they are all over. I mean, so far I have 6 in Canada, 30 in America, 3 in Mexico, 4 in Africa, 1 or 2 in the Philippines, 1 in Greece, Germany, Asia. Of course, we have more than 50 in the UK. The Mehoni in Hawaii, 1 in New Zealand, and 1, maybe 2 in Australia. So these little guys are everywhere. Everywhere that people are, they are. And then, of course, we have the different types. We have the hairy little people, and they're just nasty in general.
Yeah, you seem to get that. You get the descriptions of the Abatawitch over here in North America and the Junjudi in Australia are very strikingly similar, and the behavior is apparently just identical. They're just crabby little creeps that'll throw apples at you and hiss and growl at you and attack you if they have to and chase you out of the woods.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know somebody over here in Washington State that got chased out of the woods by one, and I got them to contact you and give you their story. So.
Oh, yeah, she did, and it actually came to visit her.
Oh, God. Well, I didn't hear the follow-up. You better share that with everybody.
Well, it was in her backyard. It was able to climb the fence or jerry-rigged the lock that she keeps on her fence, and it grabbed one of her pets. Now, luckily, she was able to drive it off, and her pet was okay. And it was quite aggressive. And she had an iron bar with her. It showed aggressiveness like a chimp. Now, these little guys are very chimp-like, and they are aggressive. And pets like cats had been going missing in the area.
Going around eating the local pets. Well, I pity the Abatowitch that picks a fight with her because she's native and tough.
She did exactly what she was supposed to do and stand up against it to show it who's boss.
Yeah, I'd be pretty confident with her with a steel bar in her hand. She'd probably be able to beat him.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Now we were talking about one tough lady here. She's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, she actually works in an area where she does work on a ranch, moving the livestock around and whatnot. And she's actually run into Bigfoot a couple times in the process of doing that. So cryptid's not that big of a deal to her. But this thing, when it chased her out of the woods originally, it scared the hell out of her. She didn't know what it was.
Yeah, well, with these little guys is the apple switches.
Yep.
I'm also going to check them out this year. I will be careful. Now, I was given a picture, and I promised that I couldn't show it, which, you give me something, you tell me I can't show anybody, I won't. It's disappointing, but I can't show it. And it is a picture of one of these little guys near a tree, and he's actually picking his nose.
I know how it is, dear. I've got about a dozen just incredible images that I've been like, I can't share them. I don't have.
Oh yeah, I would love to. I'd be like, hey, look at this here, and I've been over it quite a few times at looking for anything, and it's real. Now these guys are like chimp-like, these particular apple switches, and they will throw things at you, and they are quite aggressive. But I've got to go check it out. Just cause.
Well, just make sure you're careful when you're there. That's all I can say. Don't be there by yourself.
Yeah, I won't be going by myself. And what we need for these little guys are, again, hair samples and footprints. Now, with these guys, the ones that come from Pennsylvania, they were there long before the Seneca Indians were. So this isn't a case of a couple of chimps got loose from a fair or train crash or something. They were there a long time before people. So I'm thinking that these particular ones could be indigenous chimps. So I'd like to
possible.
With the other hairy little people that are like the the Ibu Gogo, and that would be the hobbit or Homo florensis. These guys are always the same. They are aggressive. They'll eat anything. There are reports coming out of Mexico of them attacking farm animals and carrying away small pets like dogs, cats, small pigs, chickens, and they were taking them away and they were eating them. And it would be only a matter of time before they started attacking the people.
Yeah, we should get them to move right around the border. That'd be a good place for them. Matt Squatch, when he was on, he was joking about how there's dogman reports all over down there by the border, and I've heard them too, and scary stuff. And I don't know if we want to encourage them to be border guards down there either.
Guard dogs. Guard dogs.
I think that's a little bit too much dangerous, having dogman for guard dogs down there on the border.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten a few Squatch reports from up here at the Quebec border where some of the refugees are crossing. Now, this particular area is where the refugees cross, but it's always been the cross for Bigfoot, the ones that do migrate. So I'm not surprised that I've gotten reports from there.
Yeah, I got a few other friends that live really close to the border, and they're kind of like surprised. One of them in particular, they know that there's like surveillance cameras and stuff that they've got to set up along the border, and the damn Bigfoot seem to border hop back and forth all the time and never get caught by them.
Oh yeah, no doubt that they watch, and they calculate when the border guards go through, or even when the drones go over.
Well, they must be able to figure out where all these sensors and cameras and stuff are too, because they're pretty good at avoiding them apparently. Or if they're getting spotted, we never hear about it.
That's true because when they were monitored by the government, that's not the top priority for them to let us know. But there's Sasquatch in the area.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just
they're definitely not gonna let us know about that.
no, which I think is just stupid because we know they exist. We know that they're there. So just tell us.
Yep. Just get it over with and admit it. Come on. We know they're there.
Yeah, and we do have some forestry people up here that put out pamphlets just telling you it's just a Bigfoot, don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you caught the show I did with Cindy here recently, but she was talking about that too, how she was getting reports from local law enforcement of Bigfoot sightings that she was going investigating. And she was just kind of, she's from Texas, and she's kind of surprised they weren't like trying to spin it as a bear sighting or something. They were just like, no, it was a Sasquatch report.
It's getting better over the years. That more people are being open-minded about it. So I think that's very good.
Well, there's some of these areas like northern Idaho and Montana, the place is freaking crawling. All the locals know they're around. It's not like a big surprise. Oh, there's Bigfoot around. Yeah, I know. My neighbor just chewed one out of his garage yesterday. So, it's like, things are all over.
Well, yeah, like for us, they're no different than seeing a bear.
Yeah, pretty much. And that seems to be the attitude over there in the smokestack region of Idaho, because it seems like pretty much everybody that I've talked to from over there are all like, oh yeah, Bigfoot around here. Like, no big deal. There's moose around here.
He said, I find since I've started doing the little people research, more people are feeling open to come to me and speak to me about them. A lot of the times they just need to know, yeah, you're not crazy, and what happened, and they'll tell me what happened, which I absolutely love, and then I can tell you what kind they are and if you should be cautious or not.
That's the important point. You got enough information now that you can actually give people like fair warning. The ones in this area are not known to be dangerous, or the ones in this area are known to be dangerous. Don't go over there anymore.
No,
it's a puckwudgie.
Yeah, don't touch the puckwudgie.
Yeah, definitely don't touch
leave the puckwudgie's mouth.
Leave the puckwudgie alone.
Yeah, because they are evil little people, okay? They will trick you, they will call your name, and you will disappear, and nobody knows what will happen to you. They will piggyback each other to make themselves look taller. They will follow you, they will watch what you do, and they will trick you.
And they hate humans.
And they absolutely hate people.
Yeah.
Puckwudgies killed two good giants, one by the name of Moshop, and another one with Moshop. They tricked him and they got him in the water and shot him with their tiny poison arrows because they were jealous that humans showed him more affection than them. And the second giant, they found out that he was allergic to pine nuts and that he would canoe at a certain time every week. And they threw all these pine nuts down into this area where he would go. And they were throwing them into his boat. And as he fell asleep, they came in and dispatched him. Now, these particular giants were over 10 feet tall, and a puckwudgie is only 2 feet tall. And again, numbers overwhelm. Yeah. Like, puckwudgies are not stupid.
No, the other thing that comes up with stories about them is that they have magic powers. They can, like, shapeshift and stuff, too, which makes it even worse.
Yes, this is what they say, that they can shapeshift. They can turn into a porcupine. But who's saying that they won't skin a porcupine and wear their fur to make you think that?
Yeah. And it would be not only effective camouflage, but it's great armor, too, for anybody that's trying to sneak up behind you and take a swat at you.
And because puckwudgies are like this, we will not know.
Well, we'll catch one eventually and interrogate them, but until then, we'll just have to guess.
Yes, puckwudgies are something that I would not want to run into.
Yeah, me neither.
No. Or red caps or Duendes.
Yeah.
But they're not quite as bad as a puckwudgie. With red caps and Duendes, they will throw things at you. They will steal your pets and eat them. They will throw broken glass at you. Cases in Mexico, broad daylight, with witnesses where they come out of nowhere from behind buildings or wherever and stick sticks into spokes of bikes to send people flying. They will torment dogs on chains. Like they were still chickens, and it's not just in Mexico. They are here, Canada and America. They are here. There was cases in Pennsylvania where they live on a farm, and they drove the first owner out. First, her barnyard animals, the small ones, started disappearing, and then she started hearing the cackling and laughing at night, and she tried to explain that away. And one night when her, and I do believe it was her son, were coming back from grocery shopping, there was two of them right there waiting for her when she got out of the car. Sharp and broken teeth, like these things are just for shock value, because they like to scare us, they think they're funny. And they'll sharpen their fingernails down, their teeth are broken, they're dirty, their beards are dirty, and they do dress like a gnome, but they're dirty. Now, this particular incident scared the woman so bad she left the next day. The second owner of this farm, and these people don't know each other, he had put in a fish pond, and he heard laughing one night, and he looked out the window, and he saw one of these red caps, duendes, eating the raw fish, the koi, out of this pond. He didn't know what to do. He just hollered at him to get out of there, and this little guy flipped in the bird and ran off.
That's funny.
And another night, he heard some crashing out in front of his house, and he looked out the window, and here's another red-capped duende breaking all his gnomes, laughing like a hyena while he was doing it, breaking his garden, his cement garden gnomes.
Huh. So the duendes don't like the regular gnomes very much. Then I'm taking that.
No, the red caps and the duendes are like the anti-gnomes. They are a gnome, but maybe they're mentally disturbed, because they are opposite of what you would picture a gnome to be. A gnome is friendly. They are helpers. They love animals. But with the red caps and the duendes, they don't do any of this. They will group up sometimes to cause havoc. They've done that in Mexico, breaking windows and things like that. And then they just go off. They live on the outskirts where there are no people. They'll live in abandoned buildings. Like they'll drag the dog out of its house to take a doghouse.
Yeah. But look out, Detroit. There's plenty of abandoned buildings there. Yeah.
They have been seen in Detroit, too.
Does not surprise me. There was a Bigfoot seen in the outer suburbs of Detroit, crawling out of the window of an abandoned house at sunup, going somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt, because he's got to come and see what's up. Because you see that Bigfoot can be awfully curious, as much as we are about them.
They seem to like abandoned buildings, too. That comes up a lot. We've got abandoned houses and abandoned farms and abandoned barns and stuff like that, and they'll just go right in and take over.
Yeah, it's a good spot for them to stay and keep warm and be by themselves.
Yeah, well, and mostly they're sort of immune to the effects of weather, but on those occasions when they feel like they want to get out of it, it's handy for them to know about, hey, there's this wood cave over here that the humans aren't using.
Yes, exactly. There was a story that I, in the general area where I am now, it's actually closer to where my aunt lives, and there was an abandoned shed there, and two people on the same night saw Bigfoot in that come out of that building.
God.
Yeah, but the tall black regular kind.
Yeah, that's still plenty scary enough,
Yeah, and it's near a road, yeah.
You hear that a lot, too, where you get the, there's an old haunted farm out there. Well, how do you know it's haunted? Or we hear weird howling and noises like that coming from it. Like, what's it sound like exactly?
Yep.
I got a pretty good theory who it is that's living on this farm, and I'm betting it probably ain't a ghost.
Yep. But, well, we do find little people like old haunted buildings, because people won't go there like they do now, But before it was everybody was afraid of ghosts and don't go near there, and little people like spots like that
Yeah.
that are isolated and secluded.
Yeah, and it seems to be, both of them, the little people and the Bigfoot, again, there's the tie-in. They both like those areas that, were human inhabited, now abandoned for whatever reason.
We also find with Bigfoot, and especially that I'm finding over these last few years as more people are coming forth, when a campground closes for the year, especially up here, within a week there'll be a Bigfoot or little person sighting. They've come to see what people have left behind.
Yeah.
Maybe scavenge a little bit, especially with the little people, because they will take anything they can use. A friend of mine that lives in Toronto, he's pretty sure that he has a little person living in his building. He thought maybe at first it was a poltergeist, and then he contacted me. And the first thing was a chocolate bar. He had set it down and went to do something else, and when he came back, it was gone. And of course, I asked him first, do you have mice or rats? And he says, no, not in this building. Okay, and I said, well, if it's a poltergeist, maybe it'll turn up somewhere else. Maybe you should ask, your neighbors, see if they've had a chocolate bar turn up somewhere. And then the second incident was a spoon. A spoon went missing, didn't come back. Another neighbor's seen it, and then thyme went missing. He was making himself some dinner, and it needed thyme, like the herb thyme, and it was gone.
So yeah, this isn't missing time like a UFO encounter. It's missing time, the herb.
The herb, yes. The herb. So I've told him to watch, because they will take things that are of use to them, but they will bring something back to you. You might not even notice it at first. It might be a rock or a stone that is important to them, because they do like shiny things.
And again, that's what you were talking about earlier, the fair trade thing. You don't just take things, you leave something else that you think has equal value.
Yes, we see in Europe, a lot of spoons go missing. It is something that they can use. It's of value to them. And it's replaced with food usually. A muffin will turn up. A muffin seemed to have been, and this is around the turn of the century, is when I'm talking about a muffin or a tart of some sort will turn up on the counter, and nobody knows how it got there.
Yeah, I wonder how often that is, where that kind of stuff is going on and people think it's poltergeist activity. It's actually just little people living in the building that are pranking them to take stuff, move it around, leave it somewhere else, take it, never bring it back, take it, bring it back a long time later, put it somewhere else. All that kind of weird stuff.
Yeah, I know of a poltergeist case, and this is an actual poltergeist, where the woman's husband had died, and she met a man within 6 months, and the woman's husband didn't like it very much, and he would take the man's keys and throw them at the front door. The new man that she was seeing, he didn't like him, so he would throw the keys to the front door. I was like, yeah, just a hint.
Yeah, that's pretty much of a hint there. He really didn't like that guy very much, apparently.
Yeah, but there wasn't any other problems after she broke up with the guy or whatever the circumstances was.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty much related to him. He kept throwing his keys.
Yep, he didn't like him, no. Or maybe it was too soon, I don't know.
Oh, that could be too, it depends on their perception, I guess. Well, was there anything else about the little guys that you wanted to mention in this installment here?
Well, when I went to Algonquin Park, I didn't see any little people, but I will be returning there later this year because I'm not done with that really large Bigfoot yet. Now, these Bigfoot are quite, like I said, quite large, and they've been known to drag entire trees out onto the road, roots and all. But my research for the little people, of course, it's never done. The more I have, the more I learn, and the more I can share.
So are you going to have, planning on having Blaine with you up there and have him squatching while you're hobbiting?
Well, since I do both. I'd like for him to come with me to Algonquin because he saw one there when he was younger.
Yeah, I know. He's actually been up there a few times, and it looks like an area that's definitely worth researching.
Oh, absolutely. When I actually went up there initially, I didn't think I was going to get any Bigfoot stuff, and I would get a lot of little people stuff, and I got the opposite.
Like you're there looking for little people. Oh, you Bigfoot, get out of here so the little people would show up. Quit peeking in my window. I'm looking for little people.
Oh, and I loved it because there was a young bear. He had gotten into or figured out how to open car doors, and they were trying to get him at the Algonquin Park. And so here's these huge tracks, like I said, like 14 inches. And here's the bear tracks, and, same area around the same time. And they were all, the bear and the Bigfoot were eating the wild blackberries in this one particular area. It was just wow and amazing to me. Now I'm going to North Carolina to do some squatching and hobbiting, and I'll be all over the place down there.
Well, it sounds like you got a fun year planned. You're going to be able to do all kinds of field trips and check out everything firsthand. That's always the funnest when you get a chance to do that.
Oh, yeah, because I love my field work, because I like being outside.
Yeah, I think a lot of us researchers have that in common. We may be on these shows, but we'd rather be out in the woods with nobody around us, like 24/7.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because, you're outside, you're in the wild, and you never know what's going to happen. Because there's always that sense of anticipation.
Yeah. Say, speaking of that, before we go, here's a question. Is there ever this gets reported as Bigfoot a lot, where there's either like they get the feeling something is watching them, or the less commonly but still pretty regularly reported feeling of the cloud of doom descending. Do you get that sort of thing with little people sightings where there's just this feeling of menace in the area prior to seeing one or something?
You will get the feeling that you're being watched. Just like you would if another animal was watching it, exactly like you described.
Okay.
And usually you kind of get a hint of what kind of animal or something it might be. But with the little person, it's not general. You just know you're being watched. And even this happens to me too. And always look up. Even I forget to do that sometimes.
Yeah, because they climb. The little people climb. Bigfoot climbs. They climb. Don't forget to look up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's always fun having you on the show, and this was no exception. I'm really glad you managed to make the time to come back on the show again, Robyn, and looking forward to having you on for another update here in the future at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going on a trip in about 9 days now. So I'm hoping to bring back lots of goodies for everybody. Lots of more information.
Right on. So everybody get over there and check out her YouTube and Facebook, and soon to be MeWe. She'll be over on MeWe with all the rest of us over there in the troll-free MeWe zone. And Strange Realms, Robyn Moonshadow. She is the lady when it comes to little person research. If you have a sighting or you know somebody that does, pass it along to her. That's how we get this big database so we can look at this stuff and figure things out. So once again, thanks so much for being with us for another show.
Well, thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks. You're very welcome. And all the listeners out there, don't forget the usual abjurations do in fact apply this week. So make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the Puckwudgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee. See you later, folks.